You know, one of the most common mistakes men make, without even realizing it, is this. When their woman goes quiet, they assume everything's fine. They think, asterisk, well, she's not complaining, so we must be good. Asterisk, but that's silence. That quietness, that's not peace, that's withdrawal. That's often the first signal that something has shifted, something emotional is brewing beneath the surface. And if you're not attuned to it, if you brush it off as nothing, you're missing the entire point. The thing is, women don't usually go silent for no reason. Silence is rarely neutral in a relationship. It's often loaded with meaning, with emotion. Sometimes it's frustration that doesn't feel safe to express. Sometimes it's hurt that hasn't been acknowledged. Sometimes it's disappointment that's been stacking up over time, quietly, because maybe she's tried to bring it up before and felt like she wasn't heard, or worse, she was shut down. And what do a lot of guys do when they sense that distance? Nothing. They don't ask, they don't lean in. They tell themselves stories to avoid the discomfort, asterisk. She's just tired. Asterisk or asterisk. She probably needs space. Asterisk, they retreat further into work, into distractions, into the comfort of not having to deal with emotions they don't understand. But that's not strength. That's avoidance, and the cost of that avoidance, it's enormous. That silence becomes a wall, and the longer you leave it there, the thicker it gets. If a woman is going quiet, it's not the moment to relax and assume things will sort themselves out. That silence is a signal, a test even. She's watching to see if you notice. She's wondering if you'll care enough to ask, not to interrogate, not to fix, but to be present. She's waiting to see if you'll feel her before she even speaks. And this isn't about mind reading. It's about asterisk tuning in asterisk, about caring enough to notice the shift in tone, in energy, in presence. It's about being aware. You see, relationships aren't maintained just through words. They're maintained through emotional awareness, by knowing when something feels off even when nothing has been said. But that awareness takes practice. It takes courage, and most men haven't been taught that. They've been taught to look for problems when there's yelling, when there's a confrontation. But by the time it gets there, you've already missed the first 5 warning signs. The woman you're with wants to feel that you asterisk care asterisk before she has to explain why. She wants to feel that she can stop talking for a minute and you won't disappear into your own world, but instead lean closer emotionally, not with panic, not with pressure, but with presence, with curiosity. With genuine, steady interest in what her silence might be telling you. Because when you don't respond, when you don't acknowledge it, what you're really saying is, asterisk, your feelings don't matter unless you spell them out for me. Asterisk, and that's a message that eats away at trust over time. So if your woman goes quiet and you think that means everything's fine, you've already stepped onto the wrong path. Silence is not absence. It's communication waiting for recognition. And the men who understand this, who develop the capacity to listen before words are even spoken, they become the kind of partners women open up to, not because they demanded it, but because they earned it. Now, the second mistake, and this one is just as common, maybe even more frustrating, is that when a woman finally does open up, when she breaks the silence and starts to share what she's feeling, what's bothering her, what's been weighing on her, a lot of men jump immediately into fix-it mode, like it's a leaky pipe or a broken engine. They hear a problem, they zero in on it, and they start offering solutions asterisk, well, why didn't you just say that earlier, asterisk or asterisk, you should have done this instead, asterisk, and you can see, almost instantly, how the conversation dies right there. Not because the solution was wrong, but because the whole approach missed the point. You have to understand, when a woman opens up, especially after going quiet, she's not testing your intellect, she's not asking for a 5-step plan to solve her emotional state. What she's looking for is recognition. She wants to feel heard, not managed. When you rush to fix it, what you're really doing, though it's rarely your intention, is sending the message that her feelings are a problem to be eliminated rather than a part of her to be embraced. And that's not love, that's control disguised as helpfulness. This tendency to fix, to leap in with answers, is often rooted in discomfort. Most men don't know what to do with negative emotion. It feels chaotic, unpredictable. And men, we're wired, often socialized, to resolve chaos as quickly as possible. So when she comes to you with emotion, your instinct is to contain it, to resolve it, to get things back to a neutral, manageable state. But relationships aren't mechanical systems, they are emotional ecosystems. You don't get to repair a person's pain by slapping a solution on it. You have to move through it with them, and that requires something harder than logic. It requires presence. What she needs in that moment is to feel that you're with her in it, not looking for the exit, not reaching for the fix, just with her, and you can see it. When a man really listens, really holds space, the energy shifts. She relaxes, she softens, not because the problem is solved, but because she no longer feels alone with it. And that, often, is all she was looking for in the first place. A lot of men think being useful is about doing. But in these moments, usefulness is about being still, being calm, being attentive. It's knowing that you don't have to have the right answer. You just have to be the right presence. That's emotional maturity. That's strength, and it's rare, but it's what creates real intimacy. Because when she realizes she can bring her most vulnerable, uncertain, chaotic self to you, and you won't flinch, you won't fix, you won't try to clean it up, she learns that she's safe. And from safety comes connection. You don't have to fix her feelings. That's not your job. Your job is to make sure she doesn't have to face them alone. And when you start showing up like that, consistently, you become the kind of man she respects, trusts, and opens up to. Not because you always know what to say, but because you're willing to be there when there's nothing to say at all. The third mistake, and this is one that drives a deep wedge into the relationship, is taking it personally when she goes quiet. Or worse, getting defensive the moment she finally speaks. And look, I get it. It's not easy. You feel like you're doing your best, working hard, showing up, holding it together, and then suddenly she pulls back. She's distant, maybe she's colder than usual. You ask what's wrong, and she says, asterisk, a nothing. Asterisk, or she does open up, and it feels like she's pointing the finger at you, and your instinct, your emotional reflex, is to push back. Asterisk, why are you acting like this? Asterisk, asterisk, so it's all my fault now. Asterisk, asterisk, you never said anything before. Asterisk, and what happens in that moment is subtle, but powerful. You stop hearing her, and you start defending yourself. The entire focus of the conversation shifts from her emotional reality to your sense of being attacked, and once that happens, she's no longer safe. She's no longer being met with curiosity, with care she's being met with resistance. Now she has to fight to justify her own experience, and you're no longer partners in the conversation. You've become opponents, and once you're on opposite sides of the table, trust starts to erode fast. Here's the thing, when she's upset, when she's gone quiet and eventually begins to open up, it's not always about you. But even when it asterisk is asterisk about you, it doesn't have to be an accusation. It's an invitation. A difficult one, yes, but an invitation nonetheless to look inward, to ask asterisk, is there something I've missed? Is there something I need to see, even if it's uncomfortable? Asterisk, that's what maturity does. It seeks understanding before it seeks absolution. Because when you get defensive, what you're really doing is prioritizing your ego over the relationship. You're choosing the need to be right over the opportunity to grow, and that's a hard truth for a lot of men to accept. Because we tie so much of our identity to being competent, to being good partners, and when someone suggests that we've missed the mark, even gently, it can feel like a personal failure, but it's not failure. It's feedback, and how you respond to that feedback determines whether the relationship gets stronger or begins to fracture. You have to build the capacity to hold space for difficult truths without collapsing or retaliating. That's emotional leadership. That's resilience. When she comes to you with emotion, with frustration, even with criticism, it's not your job to justify yourself. It's your job to listen long enough to find the signal inside the noise. Because there's always a signal, a deeper need, a deeper longing, and if you're too busy defending your character, you'll miss it, and she'll stop trying to explain it. A woman won't keep bringing her emotional world to a man who makes her feel like she's wrong for having one. She'll shut down, she'll grow distant, and over time she'll stop trusting you with her vulnerability. Not because you weren't capable of handling it, but because every time she tried, you made it about you. You can't lead in a relationship if you can't sit in discomfort. If every emotional expression feels like a threat to your identity, you won't grow, and neither will the connection between you. But when you let go of the need to defend and instead lean in with humility, with curiosity, with the quiet confidence that says, asterisk, even if this is hard to hear, I'm here for it, asterisk, that's when real transformation happens. Now, here's where it really starts to come together, understanding the role of emotional safety, because at the core of it, that's what all of this comes down to. When your woman goes quiet, when she pulls back, when you feel that wall go up between you, it's almost always rooted in a lack of emotional safety, not drama, not manipulation, safety. And if you don't get that, if you don't grasp just how foundational that sense of safety is for her ability to speak, to connect, to trust, you'll keep misreading the signals, and you'll keep reacting in ways that push her even further away. See, emotional safety isn't about walking on eggshells. It's not about coddling or being overly soft. It's about becoming the kind of presence that makes her feel like she can tell the truth without it blowing up in her face. Like she can say how she feels, raw, unfiltered, imperfect, and you won't use it against her or make her regret saying it or punish her for being vulnerable, and if that safety isn't there, she's going to go silent. Not to punish you, but to protect herself. A lot of men think leadership in a relationship means being the one in control, being firm, decisive, logical. But real leadership means creating the kind of emotional environment where honesty can breathe. And that means you don't just hear the words, you listen to what's underneath them. You don't just tolerate emotion, you make room for it. You don't shut her down because it's inconvenient for you. You stand steady in it. You let her know, not with grand speeches, but through your consistency, that she can be safe here. Even when she's messy, even when she's upset, even when she's not making perfect sense. And you know, a lot of times, women test for this without even realizing it. It's not a game, it's survival. She'll say something small, something vulnerable, and she'll watch how you respond. Do you get irritated? Do you laugh it off? Do you change the subject? Or do you stay with her in that moment and take it seriously? Because that moment tells her everything. If you make her feel foolish for speaking up once, she might not try again. If you get defensive or cold when she's emotional, she'll start learning that your love comes with terms. And then she stops bringing you the truth, not because she doesn't want to, but because it's not worth the emotional cost. And it's not always about big blow-ups either. Sometimes it's just a pattern. You interrupt too quickly, you talk over her, you minimize what she says with jokes or logic. These things add up, they slowly teach her that the truth isn't safe here, that she has to carry it alone. And that kind of loneliness in a relationship, it's unbearable. It leads to the silence, the distance, the erosion of connection that you don't even notice until one day she's just gone. So your job, if you care, if you really want to lead well, is to build an emotional climate where she doesn't have to armor up. That doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. It doesn't mean you let yourself be walked over. But it does mean you're grounded enough to listen without needing to control, strong enough to stay calm in the presence of emotion, and wise enough to know that safety isn't built by demanding openness. It's built by earning it. There's a misconception that listening is passive, that all you have to do is stay quiet, nod your head a few times, and wait until it's your turn to speak. But that's not real listening. Real listening, especially in a relationship, is one of the most active things you can do. It demands focus, it demands presence, and it demands the ability to put your ego aside long enough to actually hear what's being said. Not just the words, but the emotion behind them, the context, the vulnerability it takes to even say them out loud. You can't fake this kind of listening. Women are incredibly sensitive to tone, to micro-expressions, to body language. They'll feel it if you're just waiting to talk. They'll feel it if you've already decided what they mean before they've finished the sentence. And once they sense that you're not really asterisk them in the moment, the conversation's over even if the words keep going. She might keep talking, but she's already started shutting down inside. Because no one wants to keep opening up to someone who's not fully there. When she's speaking to you, especially after she's been quiet, she's not just giving you information. She's giving you a piece of her emotional world. And how you respond to that determines whether she'll hand you more or start pulling it back. If your body language says, "I'm tired of this," or "here we go again," that doesn't just kill the moment, it chips away at the foundation of trust. It says, this space isn't safe for you to bring your full self, and she feels that. So what does real listening look like? It looks like stillness, not frozen, but calm, attentive stillness. It looks like putting your phone down, turning toward her, maintaining soft eye contact without trying to control the moment. It looks like allowing silence after she finishes speaking, because sometimes what's most important isn't said right away. It looks like not rushing to interpret or reframe what she's saying through your own lens. It's resisting the urge to interrupt, even when you think you've got the perfect insight or comeback. It's letting her finish. Not just the sentence asterisk, the feeling asterisk. And here's the deeper truth about all this. When you truly listen, when you stay present and grounded in her emotional expression, it tells her that she matters, that her world is worthy of your attention. And that is one of the most powerful gifts you can give in a relationship. It costs nothing, but it's rare, because it requires you to step outside yourself to be okay with not having control, to be comfortable enough in your own skin that you don't need to dominate the moment. There's strength in that kind of listening, not weakness, strength, because it takes discipline to stay present in emotion. It takes self-control to withhold judgment, and it takes confidence to not need to insert yourself into everything she says. But when you can do that, when you can meet her emotional world with presence instead of pressure, you become a man she wants to come back to again and again. Not because you've solved anything, but because you've proven, through your attention, that she's not alone. There's something deeply unsettling for a woman when the man she loves stops showing up with intention. And one of the most overlooked mistakes men make, especially when she's gone quiet, is backing off instead of leaning in. It's the withdrawal, the resignation, the silent assumption that if she wants space, the best thing to do is disappear emotionally, to wait it out, to detach, to think well, she's obviously upset. She doesn't want to talk. I'll give her time and maybe it'll blow over. But what often happens in that space is not healing. It's deepening disconnection. See, when a woman goes quiet, yes, sometimes she is overwhelmed. Sometimes she's processing, but the silence doesn't mean she's stopped caring. It often means she doesn't feel safe, heard, or valued enough to keep trying. And when your response is to mirror that distance, to match her withdrawal with your own, it confirms the fear she's already wrestling with. I'm alone in this. I don't matter enough for him to come toward me. Now, I'm not talking about smothering her. I'm not talking about panicking or becoming desperate or constantly chasing her around the emotional room trying to fix things. I'm talking about staying present staying available. Showing, not just saying, that even when things are quiet, even when they are tense, even when you don't have all the answers, you haven't disappeared, that your presence isn't conditional on everything being easy or comfortable, that you're still there, watching over the space between you with care and steadiness. That's what builds trust. That's what shows strength, not intensity, But consistency. A lot of men show up strong when things are romantic, exciting, or physical. But it's when the air goes cold that the real test begins, and most don't realize that this quiet stretch, this moment of tension, is when she's watching to see what kind of man she's really with. Will he shut down? Will he retreat into his own world? Or will he stay rooted, calm, and accessible, even when she can't yet bring herself to reach out? And this is crucial. Women don't want a perfect man. They want a steady one who doesn't panic in the face of silence, one who doesn't make her emotional withdrawal about his own insecurity, one who can hold tension without escalating it, without making ultimatums or shutting down emotionally to protect his own pride. She wants to know that when she's wrestling with her internal storm, you're not going to jump ship or go numb, that you're still there, still choosing her, not waiting on her to make the first move or soothe your discomfort, but standing your ground in love and patience. Because here's the hard truth, distance tests depth. When a woman goes silent, she's often asking a question without words asterisk. Will you still choose me even when I don't make it easy? Asterisk, and if your answer is to mirror her silence, you're not answering her at all. You're leaving her to answer it alone, and in that void, disconnection grows, resentment festers, love starts to shrink. You don't need to chase, but you do need to stay emotionally available. You do need to communicate, gently but clearly, asterisk. I'm still here, I'm not going anywhere. When you're ready, I'll be here to talk, to listen, to reconnect. Asterisk, that kind of steady presence creates the space for her to come forward again. Not because she's pressured, but because she feels safe.